Hello and welcome to the Crop and Crate Delivered Winter Kit videos. In this particular video series, I'm going to use 3 different sketches to create layouts that feature the papers and embellishments found in the Winter 2015 kit. Be sure to watch all of the videos so you don't miss out on ways to stretch your kit, including ways to decorate with paper and embellishments found in the kit. Today you'll notice this 12 by 12 inch sketch has 3 photos. For this particular layout, rather than focus on pictures of family members, I'm going to focus on the Christmas tree that we had last year. When you're documenting the holidays, don't forget to include things like holiday decor. To start the layout, we're going to use a sheet of 12-inch pattern paper. The pattern paper I have selected is the script paper. It is black with white script. On the back are these trees. On the sketch, the page that goes in the middle, or rather the paper, is a solid paper. So I'm going to use a square of craft cardstock. I thought it would be fun to layer some different patterns, so then rather than leave it just like this, I'm going to take a slightly smaller square of this Bow Bunny polka dot paper. And it has polka dots with text in it, as well as a chevron on one side. And we're going to use the polka dot side. Rather than center the paper in the middle of the craft cardstock, I'm going to left align both the papers, meaning that both papers run right along the left edge. And then I'm going to bring in a color that you saw in my photos, which is kind of a aqua blue color. I took a pair of scallop scissors and cut this long strip. We're going to adhere it to the side of the paper where both papers run parallel to each other. This particular cardstock color is one of the colors included in the kit. You'll notice that I've cut the scallops so they are the same width, meaning there isn't a funny scallop left over at the bottom or the top. I tried to keep them centered. Now we can place the entire design on the page. We're going to center right in the middle of the page, just as it was shown on the sketch. Now you can see on the sketch we've started with the basic elements, but we've dressed it up a little bit. I went a step further and I wanted to include some more pattern. I'm using a lot of tans on this page. I wanted to use this poinsettia paper. It does have black polka dots on one side, just to dress up this bottom edge. Because I'm using so much tan, you almost don't notice it at first, but it gives it a little bit of dimension. Then to dress it up even further, I'm going to machine stitch across the top. I'll go ahead and do that and let you see what it looks like when I'm done. You'll notice not only did I stitch along this bottom edge here, but I stitched around the top of the square as well. And something fun that I did is I used tan thread rather than just typical white sewing thread. This adds a little bit of dimension. Now again, I mentioned that we're going to be using some Christmas tree photos. And so I've printed some that reflect the tree that we had and match the colors of the paper here. Now you'll notice the dimensions are noted on the sketch. You can always change the dimensions of your photos and crop them in as much or as little as you want to fit whatever you are trying to document. You'll notice that for this smaller photo, I focused on one specific ornament. As you're taking photos this holiday season, try to capture more than just the overall picture. Get in close and get some of the details. We're going to loosely place these on the page so that I can add the journaling block, which is shown here. What we're going to do for the journaling block is I have a sheet of this teal aqua snowflake paper. It has Christmas Village on the back. And I'm going to round just the right corners of this block. Then I'm going to take a smaller sheet of the same aqua paper that I used on this side, and I'm going to do the same thing. Round just the right corners, and then we'll mount them on top of each other. This is going to bring in a surprising amount of color to the layout, and we'll center that on as well. Then we can add this behind the photos, and when I do that, I realize that I want to round the left corners as well, so sometimes I'll change my mind. You'll notice that just like on the left side of the page, I have left aligned the papers. I'll bring those down just a bit. Now at the top here on the sketch, it shows a tab. rather than do a tab, I'm going to take some of the elements from the ephemera pack and we're going to add them rather than the tag. So we're going to start by layering. I mentioned I'm bringing in a lot of tan elements. We're going to start with this Frosty's Hot Cocoa. We'll add this ticket. And we'll trim off some of it because I don't need all of it, and there's no sense in using more than we need. And I want to make sure you can read the hot cocoa words. Then to this tag, I will take the teal ribbon that's included in this collection and I'm going to thread it through, trim it off, and tie it into a bow to give it some texture. And then you can trim off the bow. You can cut it at a diagonal or you can cut a triangle into each of the edges. Now we can add the white tag as well to the journaling card. Again, try to make it so you can read at least part of the card that is showing. Create some layers there. To the top of this ticket, I'm going to add some paper clips. And one of the paper clips, I'm going to leave the longer side. So on a paper clip, you can see there is a longer side and a smaller side. When I add more than one, I usually do one with the longer side showing on the front and then one with the smaller, just so it's a little bit more interesting. Now here on the journaling card, it suggests that you do a subtitle. So rather than do just a straightforward subtitle, we're going to do a cluster of embellishments. We're going to use this Making a List, Checking It Twice card, this North Pole label. These are both from the ephemera pack. And then from the Teresa Collins label, I have selected a long brown sticker. Now let's go ahead and create a cluster that's partially down the page. And I'm going to leave out just part of the card. So it says, and checking it twice. And then I'm going to take the label sticker. And this is what it looks like when it's peeled away from the backing. I cut it out with the backing on it. And I want this to run parallel to the bottom of the page. So before sticking it down, I want to get a feel that I've got it straight. At this point, I'm going to add my largest photo because I want to layer the North Pole on top of it. So I want to leave enough room on the journaling card for journaling. And then here I'm going to add some pop dots to stick up this particular label. We'll just take some adhesive foam dots from American Crafts. And we want enough of that label that's underneath to show through. Then to bring in some additional elements, we're going to use this ephemera die cut, which is a aqua ornament, a aqua snowflake, and one of the wood veneer snowflakes. I love the look of items that are layered. Now the ornament is going to run along this white border that I've kept on the photo. And then before I place things down, I get a feel for how the cluster will look. So I might change my mind, but I usually create a little bit of a triangle with a large, medium, and small shape. The easiest way to adhere these veneer shapes is typically I like to either put liquid adhesive on the back. If you want something that dries a little quicker, then a glue dot will work, especially if you use the technique I'm going to use here. So just take your wood veneer shape, and you'll notice on wood veneer, sometimes it has a more burnished side and a more clean side. I liked the look of the more burnished side. I adhere the glue dot, and then I can mount it on the page. And then to the center of each of these particular shapes, I'm going to take the glittered dots and just add one to the center of the two snowflakes. So that gives it a little bit more dimension. Now we can add our other photos. Now when you're layering photos, the sketch will give you a suggestion for placement, but the best way to layer photos is to determine how much of the photo you want covered. So I don't want to cover too much of the Christmas tree at the top. So I might adjust the photo placement from the sketch a little bit to make sure that I am not overlapping too much. Now I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap between the photo itself and the journaling strip here, and then we'll add the photo. And I think rather than place it flat, I'm going to actually pop dot the photo. And when you're adding foam dots to the back, you don't need to cover the entire back of the item with foam dots. You just need enough dots that it pops it off the page. So I usually do the outer corners and then a few in the center to support the center of the shape. And pick your dots or cut your foam so that it fits the project that you're doing. So I love the look of the pop dotted photo. It just adds a little bit of layer to it. Now on the left side of the layout, you'll notice that they suggested a item or an embellishment here. Anytime you see a sketch and it has an item here, it's a suggestion. So I thought it would be fun to do another cluster. We're going to repeat items, meaning we're going to bring in another aqua snowflake and wood veneer snowflake. I also am going to bring in this tan flare patch. And just like we did last time, create a triangle of embellishments until you get it how you like, and then come back and adhere them. A designer tip is that you'll notice in the snowflake that the lines can run any direction. I'm going to run this particular line parallel to the photo. Again, we'll use a glue dot to adhere the wood veneer. And you'll notice that I ran, again, the line of the snowflake up and down. And the flare badges do not have adhesive on them, so you will want to add some. And then just like we did to the dots down here, we're going to take some of these glitter dots and we're going to place them onto the wood veneer just to give it some shimmer and shine. And you'll have to determine the size that you want to do. And I'm even going to add one to the flare patch. Just glitters things up a little bit. Now to finish this page up, we need to add the title and the journaling. And so the titling that I'm going to use the Craft Alpha stickers from American Crafts, and we're also going to combine it with some stamping. So I love the look of layered titles. So here is the stamp set. So what I try and think about is how can I incorporate one of these sentiments onto the actual journaling. And we're going to use this magic, or we could use warm winter wishes or let it snow. It's up to you, just pick one that you want, and then combine it with either a die cut or a sticker title. And that creates a fun layered look. Let's go ahead and do some stamping. All right, to stamp on a page that is already pretty much designed, I suggest the following. Take your mouse pad and place it underneath the area you're going to stamp. The reason behind this is because you're stamping through so many layers, sometimes you don't get a clean stamped image. So when you have already designed the page and you want to incorporate stamping, add some kind of a soft base. That way as you push into it, it takes the image. If you think about stamping before you add elements, you might not need this particular step. If you have an acrylic block for the stamp and it has a grid on it, the grid allows you to align the stamp perfectly. So I took this Warm Winter Wishes and I aligned the bottom of the word wishes. Then we're going to go ahead and use, I'm using Bermuda Bay ink from Stampin' Up. It's a great dark ink and I wanted the stamping to be subtle. Another option would be to use Versamark ink, and Versamark ink simply brings out a darker color than the color that you've chosen. So I'm going to press in, press firmly, but don't rock the stamp. What happens when you rock the stamp is it creates an outer image around your stamped image. So you can see I got a beautiful, nice, clean image. And I like the look of that when I'm stamping. I don't want to stamp and then not have a clean image. Then from there, you'll see that I cut the sticker backing so I could get the placement perfectly. And one thing I typically do is I'll start with the two middle letters. And I'll center those onto the area where I want the title to go. And when you're adding stickers to a photo, I'll warn you that once they're stuck down firmly, they're probably not going to come up. So either don't stick them down all the way or make sure they're exactly where you want them, because you won't be able to pull them up without ripping your photos. Once you get the placement where you want, then stick them down firmly. Before I add the journaling, I noticed that the actual layout seems like there's something missing down here. So I went back through the ephemera pack and I found this aqua message. It says no peeking. And I'm going to run it along the bottom of this photo. So I'm going to place the point so it intersects. I'm always thinking about how can I intersect items. And just by doing that, I brought some of that aqua from this area back over here. Now we can add the journaling to the layout. I'm just going to use a black pen and I'll add the journaling here. Then I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. So the journaling reads, I always feel that a decorated tray signals that it's finally Christmas. And the final thing that I want to do to this layout is I feel like it's a little empty up here. So I'm going to take the dots that I've been using and create one more cluster of dots. And that just adds a little bit of bling. So there you have a layout that follows this particular sketch. Again, be sure to watch the other videos in this series so you see how I've used the sketches and the elements in the Winter 2015 kit to create layouts.